All right, welcome back to day number 22 of 30 Days of Q&A. And today I'm excited to geek out a little bit on a concept that I learned from one of my mentors, Eben Pagan. A lot of what I learned from him really came down to the fundamentals of being a healthy human being when it comes to things like the morning ritual and the 5 health habits that I think are really foundational to being successful, not just in one domain, but just feeling good, feeling fulfilled, and at peak performance throughout your entire life. And a lot of that are pieces of that I learned from Eben Pagan. And this is one idea that I first heard from him that has really helped a lot when it comes to building healthy habits into my everyday life. And it's this idea of habit gravity. When it comes to creating a new habit, there's this initial phase that we need to go through where it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of force. It's not easy to do at the beginning. So, for example, let's say that you want to go from scratch to running 3 miles a day. Then when you first pick up that habit and you first go out for a run, then it's really challenging and it's very painful. And like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably gonna be a 10 out of 10. If you just get up and you decide to start going for a run each day, it's going to feel very uncomfortable and it's going to really take a lot of energy, right? Mental energy to like get yourself to do the thing and physical energy. But after a certain amount of time, it starts getting easier and easier. So in this analogy, creating a new habit is like launching a rocket ship into outer space. And you have to forgive me. This isn't going to be pretty. This is my first time ever drawing this. So this is a rocket and you're launching it into outer space. And when you do a rocket launch, 90% of the energy that's required to get the rocket off the ground and get it in outer space happens in the first initial launch sequence. So this part right here. But once it's in outer space, then it like detaches, like all of this stuff falls away and it detaches. And now you have this inertia, you have this momentum. And because you've broken gravity, because you've broken away from it, now it takes significantly less fuel, significantly less energy to keep moving forward. And at that point, now that you've launched the rocket, you have this new habit, then you need to make sure that if this rocket's floating in outer space, you need to make sure it has some sort of GPS to make sure it's going in the right direction. Because if it's just floating there, then it could float aimlessly and it might crash into something and it might stop moving forward. But at the same time, it's going to take significantly less fuel, significantly less energy to keep moving forward. And so I found this to be a really helpful analogy when it comes to understanding creating new habits in your life. Because if you know that, okay, this is just a temporary thing. This sucks. Getting up and eating a green shake every morning. Maybe the first 10 times you drink it, you're like, I don't really know if I like how this tastes, and it takes a lot of energy to create this. But if you know that, okay, I'm going to stick with this for at least 30 days, and you go for 30 days, then there's different lines of thinking. Some people think it's 30 days. Some people say it's 90 days. But the point is, the more that you do the habit, the more ingrained that the habit becomes, the easier that it gets, until you reach a point where you actually have broken gravity and you're just floating, and it's much, much easier. If you're choosing the right habits, then these are habits that in the short term are uncomfortable, but then in the long term, they make you feel way better and they give you more energy. They help you be more focused. When you look at human motivations, a lot of our motivations are driven by moving towards things that make us feel good and moving away from things that make us feel bad. And so if you want to get leverage on yourself and you're looking to create healthy new habits, the way to do that is by focusing on the parts that make you feel good and by focusing on the things that you want to move away from that feel bad. So for example, if the habit is getting in a routine of going for a 30-minute run in the mornings, then the more that you focus on the resistance and the pain and the discomfort of going out for the run, the more that kind of builds up, then the less likely it is that you're going to be motivated to go do it. Because as humans, we're not insane. At least not consciously insane for the most part. Like we want to move away from pain. We want to move towards pleasure. It's just part of how we're programmed. And I never would have thought that I would enjoy going for runs. I was the last person that you'd think would be a runner. I remember my dad when I was growing up, he would joke that track and running was just bringing the worst part of every other sports and turning it into a sport. Or he'd say it's like the thing that's punishment in all the other sports is you're turning it into the sport itself. Yeah, and that's the way that I felt for a long time too. I'm like, yeah, why would I possibly enjoy running? I think what it was that changed it for me was reading a book called The Spark. And The Spark talked about movement and how big of an impact it makes, not just physically, but like the main benefit is actually emotionally, just in terms of your well-being and your mental health, that moving, exercising, going for a walk throughout the day, going for runs in the morning. And I noticed that a lot of role models and people that I looked up to were avid walkers and were runners, and a lot of CEOs that I knew were runners. So I thought maybe this is something I should look to get into. And that's when I discovered the app Couch to 5K. That was all about going from never running to running a 5K. And this is just one example of a healthy habit. But in that video, we walked through 5 different really important habits. I think if you're going to start somewhere, ingraining those habits, getting those to a point where they're automatic is something that's going to completely change your life. And the point of this video is that in order to instill those habits, if you're aware that there's going to be this period of discomfort and this period where it's going to be harder than normal, and you're willing to stick with it and keep doing the thing until you've reached that point of breaking habit gravity, then that gives you a little bit more of a finish line, and it makes it a lot easier, in my opinion, to stick with it and make it through to the other side to break habit gravity. So in this analogy, now that you've broken habit gravity and you're in outer space, we talked about the GPS and making sure that you're going in the right direction. That's really where the habit tracker comes into place. Now that you have these habits in place, you want to make sure that you are keeping them in line with your goals. You want to set targets, and you want to keep track of, are you hitting your targets? And the way that we do this for our Modern Musician team is that once a month, we choose a quote unquote keystone habit. And so I'm going to show you my personal habit tracker, and this is probably going to look a little bit overwhelming just because there's like a bunch of different stuff in it. But basically what this looks like, and so you can see here when I was on vacation and I came back and I noticed that I wasn't feeling as good. I was still doing pretty well, still like in the 8s or 9s out of 10, but usually I'm like in the upper 9s. And it's helpful to be able to keep tabs on these things and see how these different habits affect your well-being. But in terms of the GPS system, once a month, what we do is we choose a keystone habit. And the keystone habit is basically what's the new habit that you're looking to instill, that you're looking to break habit gravity. And if you just do that once per month, you choose one habit. And you say, okay, this is my keystone habit for the month. And every single day, I'm looking to do this habit at the very least. And you keep track of all the other ones, but you make this your keystone habit. Then the way that we create accountability for it is that we have a audit system. So we have some team members that will actually keep track of each other's sheets. And then if we miss a keystone habit, then we mark this as an X. And we have a formula in here. So you can see that if I miss more than one per month, then it starts to add up. And then I owe $100 per keystone habit missed to our music fund. And I think I walked through the music fund in a different video, but basically we have a fundraiser that we contribute to that helps keep us all accountable. And so the idea here is, as it relates to habit gravity, is just choosing that one keystone habit per month as something that you're going to be held more accountable for, and focusing on, okay, what's the habit that I'm looking to make automatic? And if you can just do that one practice of once per month, choosing that one habit, doing it for 30 days, getting it to a point where you've broken habit gravity, it's like a cumulative effect. Most people who are watching this have probably heard of the idea of cumulative investments, how they start to stack on each other. And that's how you can take a little bit of money and turn it into a lot of wealth, is by this cumulative investing. And the same thing applies to your habit tracker and to your keystone habits. You're adding one at a time, but it was like pushing a snowball down a hill, and it really starts to pick up steam if you keep consistent with it. One of my favorite quotes is from Dave Kekik. Life's easy when you live it the hard way, and it's hard if you try to live it the easy way. right? Life is hard if you try to live it the easy way. It's easy if you try to live it the hard way. And what he means by that is in correlation with what we're talking about. Some of those habits that we're talking about, the healthy habits, eating your vegetables every day, getting good enough sleep, going for a run in the morning, like all these things are things that in the short term might be more challenging, they might be hard, but in the long term, they make your life so much easier. You just feel better, you feel more clear, you're focused, you're productive, you have great energy levels, and you feel good. Whereas life is hard if we live it the easy way. If we don't do anything and we just sit around and play video games all day and eat Doritos for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's easy to do and it tastes good in the short term. Life gets really hard because that starts to stack up. We don't feel very good. Our brain gets cloudy and we don't have very much energy. And I think that saying is really powerful to consider, especially when it comes to building healthy habits like this, is that if you can appreciate, okay, this is in the short term, I'm breaking habit gravity and I'm expending this fuel in order to create momentum, create inertia. But this is actually, with each of those things, you add that snowball down a hill effect, and cumulatively, life gets a lot easier. All right, that's about everything that I had to talk about for today. Any questions that you'd like to ask?
I have a quick one. What green shake do you use?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually made a recipe for this at one point. Let me see if I can pull that up for you. And maybe I could even share it just as a resource here. Yeah, the green shake's been a game changer though. And this thing is, when I drink this, I feel like a superhero. There's just bam, super clear, focused energy, feeling really good. The green machine. Yep, here we go. All right, so the green machine. I actually broke it up here into the shopping list, the weekly prep, the daily recipe, making the green shake. So let's see. I could probably share this as a resource here in the description of the YouTube video. But I'm a big fan of having a delivery service like Whole Foods or Instacart or Amazon Prime now. Like, you can actually just have those all delivered to your house. It makes life so much easier if you have all your groceries delivered. And so shopping list, usually I'll get avocados, bananas, frozen blueberries, flaxseed oil. I'll get 3 different types of veggies. Some like the most super packed, nutrient dense veggies like red chard is great, spinach, broccoli, collard greens, baby bok choy. So I'll get 3 of these different types, depending on what I'm in the mood for. If I'm going to a grocery store, I'll see what looks fresh. But getting these from the delivery services, I haven't had a bad experience yet. Like, they've done a really good job with this, especially the Whole Foods from Prime Now. Super powder. So yeah, I put a bunch of different things that aren't spoilable into these powders and I pre-make them each week. So I can just dump them into the blender for the green shake. And chia seeds are awesome. And chia seeds, I would highly recommend. These are good for the green shake, but these are also great there's a recipe called isquiate. And isquiate, I learned from reading the book Born to Run, which it's basically a reporter who went to this tribe in Mexico and was trying to research why these 80-year-old plus men were running like 50-mile races. And it was like they had this crazy long lifespan, and he basically wanted to see, okay, what are they doing in this tribe? And so he went there, and one of the things that he noted was that they were drinking this weird drink called isquiate. And basically isquiate is you boil water, and then you put chia seeds in it, and so they gel up, and then you put some lime in it. Essentially, that's isquiate. So that's one drink that I make. I pre-make in the mornings as well, is isquiate, but I mix it with kombucha. So I call it iskabucha. But the idea here is this is a great snack too in and of itself. It's just you boil some water in the microwave, you put a couple scoops of chia seeds in there, they gel up. And that's another one where I noticed as soon as I started drinking that, it's bam, like you have really an energy boost. Cocoa powder. So this is raw cocoa, so not like sugar, artificial stuff. Yeah, and it also doesn't taste great by itself. I don't know if you guys have ever had raw cocoa powder, but it's like pretty bitter, but it's just a little bit of this I'll usually put in there. Amazing green grass powder. So this is from Amazon. There's just it's a green nutrient powder. I like to focus more on the organic produce as opposed to prepackaged like processed things, because I think that there's just a lot more nutrients. I think it's just better I'm a little bit skeptical of a lot of the, like, here's a powder that gives you everything that you think that you need, where I think a lot of the times that's pre-processed and they're actually losing a lot of the nutrients in the process. But I do put a scoop of that to fill out the rest of what I'm not getting from that. 2 scoops of peanut butter powder, and 1 scoop of stevia powder. So stevia is like an organic plant a sweetener. I think that they need to do a little bit more research on it to really see how it compares to sugar, but apparently it's supposed to be like a much healthier alternative to sugar, and it makes the green shake taste good. So I put a tablespoon of that in there. And then the tools is having a blender, Tupperware containers, and mason jars. Because I actually pre-make a lot of this each week so that in the mornings I just have to dump this into the blender, and it takes 10 or 15 minutes to make this. And I'll do it for breakfast and for lunch. And so it actually saves a lot of time, and it's just good to go, and it keeps it fresh. So weekly, I'll create 7 containers of the veggies. So I'll just mix and match any of these veggies. And then I'll put a square of paper towel in each container. This is really important because this actually keeps the veggies fresh. If I didn't do this, they get all like mushy and gross. But you can put this in the Tupperware container with the veggies, and it actually keeps it fresh for the full week. And then the super powder, I do the same thing where I have 7 containers in the Tupperware of the super powder. So it's 2 scoops chia seeds, cocoa powder, the amazing grass powder, the peanut butter powder, and stevia. And then daily, you just add the ingredients into the blender. Yeah, basically walk through all those there. And then you blend and pour it into mason jars. And part of the prep here was like just getting a bunch of mason jars. So I have 2 of these mason jars that I put into the fridge for lunch and in the morning. And then I just pour 1 glass to drink right away. So in the mornings, I'll blend it up, put 2 mason jars in the fridge for lunch, 1, just drink it right away. I have experimented this a bit in terms of I've tried pre-packaging the entire week and putting it in the freezer. And what I found is, you can do that where you can actually blend all of your green shake for the entire week and put it in the freezer. But I've noticed the taste difference quite a bit. Like it doesn't taste nearly as good to me when I put it in the freezer versus if I do it in the morning each day. It only takes about 10 minutes to do it. So you could try either one, but this is how I do it daily. And then I'll clean the blender each day too. So I'll just add some water and some soap and blend for a few seconds, and it'll clean the water. So I think I recorded a video of me like making the green shake and have it all prepared and stuff. So I'll share it in the YouTube description. I actually created this for my first ever client for what I call Harmonic Human, which is a new idea for a coaching program about personal development and about stuff like this and the fundamentals that they walk through. I'm still deciding if it's something that I want to invest a lot of time and energy into creating a full new coaching program, but I did it on a one-off basis and created a bunch of really cool resources from it like this. So I'll just share this as something that hopefully will be helpful for anyone who's watching this right now. All right, so that was probably a little bit more than you're expecting in response to that question, huh?
No, that was awesome, man. That looks great. I can't wait to try it.
Cool. Oh yeah, dude. If you make that your Keystone Habit to make this for 30 days, gosh, you would notice the difference so much at the end of those 30 days that you'd probably be hooked for life and want to be making that. Yeah. Cool. All right, that was day number 22 of 30 Days of Q&A. I hope this has been valuable for you. And if you have any questions, you can click on the link in the chat to submit a question and come on here live on the daily Zoom call. And if you could do me a favor, if you got value from the video, if you could smash the like button, that lets YouTube know that this has been valuable for you. And until next time.